Okay folks, after narrowly avoiding a seagull, an aggressive seagull, one of these bastards hanging around here now, stealing my Hungry Jack's burger, which I was dying to eat, we have progressed now onto the streets of Circular Quay. Did I say streets of Circular Quay? You know what I mean. Foreshore, whatever you want to call it. Alongside Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and today is a desperate effort of mine to become more familiar with the zone focusing method. I have no idea why I've not tried this more in the past. I mean, for anyone that's serious about street photography and you're working in continuous mode, especially with Fujifilm cameras, pull your head in. So when you've been shooting continuous autofocus, or mainly continuous autofocus, for so long, you finally have that epiphany, or you've had it for a while and you've finally taken your you-know-what out of your purse and decided to go manual and zone focusing. It's not that easy. It's all very well to understand the nuances of it and watch countless videos and convince yourself that that's the way to go, and it is, but it's much easier said than done in terms of coming out here onto the street and applying it and getting it done. First thing I would recommend for anyone trying it for the first time is don't worry too much about your compositions. Just focus on pointing the camera in the right direction, getting very, very familiar with setting up the zone of focus, depending on how much you want in focus. And don't worry about whether you're taking interesting photographs or not. You just want to be able to get home and see how many you've landed, how many subjects you've landed into the zone of focus that you've chosen, whether that be between 1 and 3 meters, or 1.5 to 2 meters to infinity. Just work that out. Just go out there on the street that day and just go for it, but lower your expectations. So out here today at Circular Quay and around the Opera House, I've got the Fujifilm X-T5 with me with the 23mm f2 lens, which of course is a 35mm equivalent. On days like this, beautiful bright sunshine, you could float between f8 and f11. I've currently got it set on f8. Auto ISO with a minimum of 500. Occasionally I'll take it off auto ISO and crank it up to 1/1000th in conditions like this. I'll have to change that as I get back around to the shadowy area of Circular Quay. But yeah, so f8, auto ISO or 1/1000th, and I've got the zone of focus, or the pre-focused area, sitting at, well, basically my zone of focus is between about 1.5 meters and just coming up to infinity. I always leave it just short of infinity, and therefore, technically, if I'm doing everything right, anything between about 1.5 meters from me and well into the background should be in focus. So it's going to be interesting to see how these turn out. The Opera House forecourt is currently closed because, well, it says for a major event, but it looks like on an event pack down, it's already finished. So they're keeping people off the steps for the safety of the people lugging all this gear out of here, which is a shame because in the late afternoon, when the sun is relatively low in the sky, the sun beams down on that forecourt area of the Opera House steps, There's often a lot of seagulls around, a lot of activity in terms of people, and it makes for some really good images. Honestly, can't go anywhere these days without being completely surrounded by influences. Is that too different to what I'm doing now? I don't know. Always nice when you happen upon some beautiful people on the street and you walk up to them and ask them would they like their photo taken, and they graciously say yes. Too many people on the street, non-photographic people, saying no, I don't want my photo taken. More than happy to take selfies of yourselves on your phones and plaster it all over social media though, including telling them what your name is and where you are. So the beauty of this method, of course, is that you're not half pressing the shutter in continuous autofocus. You're not having to refocus each and every time. You're just moving forward towards subjects. You just point the camera and then boom. Now, again, that won't be a stunning shot. It won't be stunning composition, but it's not about stunning compositions today. It's about practicing that technique of moving toward the edge of that zone of focus and then trusting that because of your aperture and shutter speed setup and the light, that because you've got it focused to infinity or near enough, everything beyond that 1.5 meters is going to be in focus. That's the key today. Practice that. With the images that are on my website or anything that I post socially, or really anyone's images that you see on anyone's site or social pages, they're always going to be their best images, right? The ones that they nailed the focus or were near enough to being right. The ones that they liked the most after they finished editing them. But the reality is, guys, that when photographers are out there, they will only show you their best work. And even the greatest photographers in the world will admit to you that they get a lot wrong out on the street. And that's what happens a lot, more often than not, when you're talking about continuous autofocus. Because it's really hit and miss. I said to my wife not that long ago, I said, for instance, if I went out and shot out in the street, and let's just say, for instance, I took 500 images, honestly, about 250 of them I'd be happy with, and the focus was good enough. Maybe more. A lot of times the hit rate is a lot higher than that. Sometimes it's even a little bit lower, but it's never what you think. It's never 100%. It's nowhere near 100%. So in terms of providing an opportunity for yourself to capture more workable images when you upload them after you get home, you should be introducing new techniques. And when it comes to focusing, hands down, it's zone focusing. I mean, I've been really happy with the results that I've gotten with continuous autofocus, but in terms of a hit rate, it just doesn't work out. It's not sustainable. And as I said, when you're first learning to do it or grasping the concept, don't focus too much on coming home with bangers. Just focus on coming home with a much higher than 50% hit rate in terms of photos that are either beautifully in focus or near enough. In street photography, it's more of or closer to a journalistic endeavour. So they don't have to be perfectly in focus, but they can't be blurry. They've got to be workable. So as you come away from the ferry terminals here at Circular Quay, you make your way across here to get into the northern end of the Sydney CBD, and at this time of the afternoon, on nice days, there's always pockets of light like this just starting to filter into this area. They don't go all the way through, but just enough to start trying to experiment with placing some subjects right into this area here. See what we can do here today.